Hey all, Kurt Sasso here from TGT Webcomics at Kids Read Comics. We're here with Brian from Dark Elf Designs. Thank you. How are you doing today, Brian?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, a lot of really amazing people here today. We're going up and down the convention, but you have some amazing artwork here. You have a great style about you. I love watching you kind of draw here as we came up. You know, how did you get involved with Kids Read Comics?
Well, I've been noticing it for the last couple of years, and the last couple of years I haven't actually been able to attend, but I've been wanting to. And I just kind of called Dan and I said, hey Dan, you know, I got my convention running at Xcape Con, and I said, you willing to swap some space? And he said, sure, you know, I'd love to have you. And so I'm going to give him some space at Xcape Con because, well, you know, he's Dan Michigan and did Blue Devil, and pretty well known, and you know, glad to be here and, you know, just showing off stuff to another generation, basically.
And how did you get involved in comics here? Because you have some really varying art styles.
Well, I'm pretty versatile, and I used to do fantasy art, and you know, basically when I was doing the fantasy art, and it was like fully rendered shaded stuff and you know, full color stuff, and people were telling me in order to do comics I had to develop a comic style. So I took about 5 years to develop a comic style, and now everybody in the comic books is doing full rendered shaded stuff. And but yeah, I originally was taking my stuff around to show people, and they were all, well, how come you're not set up here? You know, how come you don't have a booth here? How come you don't have a table here, or whatever? And I was like, I really didn't know how to, or, you know, anything about that. And that's kind of how I got started that, and I developed the company because I would go around to a lot of smaller press publishers even, and they would just say, you know, we don't really publish anybody who's never been published before. And I'm like, well, with that mentality, how does a new person go about getting published? So I decided to start my own company, publishing company, and under the mind that other people must want to be published too, and, you know, I can help get those who aren't already published, you know, that have some decent stuff to tell, you know, decent stories to tell.
Oh, good stuff here. You know, for you know, this is Kids Read Comics. I'm glad to see that you're showing this to a younger generation to really pique their interest, I believe. But for those kids that come up, you know, what do you say to them? How do you promote, you know, yourself and your company to these kids?
Mostly I just kind of talk to them, you know, I try to talk to them on the same level, somewhat censored, but on the same level I talk to you or you know, any other adults, you know, as far as, you know, how do you like art, and, you know, and what do you like about comics, you know, that kind of thing. And I tell them, you know, like, we do, you know, kids comics, but we also do, you know, grown-up comics, and I said, you know, art was always my favorite, you know, in school, and I talk to them about school because, you know, kids are always in school, so yeah, I just try to relate to them, you know. That's the best way I can think of to actually, you know, get them interested in what I'm doing, and maybe they're already interested, and kind of help that along.
You know, for those kids that want to get into this industry, though, you know, what advice can you give them?
Don't do it. Don't. No, I'm just kidding. No. The best advice is to try to find a mentor. Try to find somebody who's already doing this, somebody who's been in the field, or at least working on getting in the field, and never give up, because, you know, it's kind of hard sometimes to get into, and it's not something that everybody knows how to get into, and there's no one right way. So, you know, ask as many questions as you can, find out as much information as you can, and use what you can, and just take the rest and keep it in the back of your mind, you know, and maybe you can use it later, maybe not, you know, but just don't try to toss anything away, because then that's when somebody it'll come back and hit you, and you'll go, oh, that's why they said that.
You know, you have a wonderful style, as I previously said. You also have a book over there I didn't quite get to see. What is it? The
Legerdemain?
Yeah, Legerdemain.
Yeah, Legerdemain is a novel by P.S. Ramsey. I did the cover, and I did the interior illustrations. We did chapter illustrations with Bill Messner-Loebs, the guy who wrote the Max and Johnny Quest, and and he did the actual inks and the gray tones on the interior illustrations. Plus, he actually has an interior illustration near the front, and I also drew the map in the front. So.
Kids Reading Comics, it's one of those conventions that it's free to the public. You got a great influx of kids. We just saw Vader walk by, and, showing a bunch of kids dressed up as their favorite heroes in costume. And what comics did you like to read as a kid?
Oh, definitely Spider-Man was my favorite. I loved watching the old Hulk TV show, and I love the Hulk, but I was more into the Hulk TV show than the Hulk comic. But I used to love Spider-Man and Batman, one of my two favorite comics, and probably still are. I love drawing Spider-Man. He's just fun to draw, and I like drawing Batman. He's fun to draw, but Spider-Man's definitely got a lot of different things you can do with him. He's very flexible, literally and figuratively, and as far as Batman goes, he's just cool. He's got that dark mystique about him. And then other than that, I didn't get into too much else like Superman, but about 13, 14, I really got into Mighty Thor for some reason, and that went along with that whole fantasy art thing that I was doing at the time, because since he's based on a Norse god, I was doing that kind of fantasy art then. So.
And what's the website for those that want to go see your company and any work that you've done?
Okay, the website for us is www.darkelfdesigns.com. That's like elf, like Santa's helpers. And it's designs with an S. People always put design instead of designs. But yeah, it's darkelfdesigns.com, and the convention is www.xcapecon.com, and that's XCAPECON.com.
Well, great. Thanks very much, Brian. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend here at Kids Read Comics.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Kurt. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.